If somebody had once said to me that the man who you are trusting with your life will one day make the same life of yours a living hell, I would have laughed in his face. Yet I wish somebody had said it to me, warned me in some way or the other. Anyways, at least I might have been a little prepared for what I was suffering through right at this moment as I write this. Hey guys, my name's Eva, and to be honest, I'm 26, and the person I'm talking about is none other than my husband, David. David and I have been married for almost 7 years now. I met David when I was 19 and got married to him a year after. I know you must be thinking that 20 is a bit early to be married off. I know it is, but my situation was a bit different. I was an orphan living with my old grandmother, who died about a year after my marriage. My parents passed away when I was hardly 3. I guess, anyways. So even though I don't remember them much, my whole life had been spent missing my parents. Wondering how life would have been if I still had someone to take care of me. Oh, don't get me wrong, my grandmother did a great job raising me. However, there was a limit to what she could do at such an old age. Financially, things weren't that great either, and my parents left some savings, but since nobody had expected them to pass on so early, including them, there was no proper fund that was set up. My grandmother earned some by teaching children from around the neighborhood, and I worked for a few small-paying art gigs at the local restaurant and cafes. I met David in one such cafe. I was drawing an art piece on the sidewall when I did not know whether I or my art caught his eye. He was 24 at the time exactly, and charismatic, successful, and seemed to have his life together. Our connection was instant. He was charming and made me feel special in a way no one else had before. We started dating and things moved quickly. Within a year, we were engaged, and soon after, we were married. Guys, it felt like an absolute fairy tale. My own personal love story where everything was perfect. The first couple of years were amazing. David was attentive and loving, and we had a lot of fun together. We traveled, we tried new restaurants, and spent weekends binge-watching our favorite shows. I felt like I had found my soulmate, for a girl who had barely ever had enough. All this seemed like straight out of a dream. However, as time went on, subtle changes began to emerge. David started becoming more controlling. At first, it was small things, like questioning my choice of friends or criticizing my outfits. I would brush it off, thinking he was just being protective and caring. However, his behavior gradually worsened. He began monitoring my phone calls and text, showing up unexpectedly when I was out with friends and questioning every little thing that I did. It felt like he needed to know my every move. He would often make me feel guilty for wanting to spend time with anyone other than him. It was emotionally draining, but I convinced myself that he was just being overly affectionate and that his intentions were good. As the years went by, David's need to control it grew. He started disrespecting my passion for art, calling it a side hobby, and how I should be focusing more on taking care of him as it was him and his real job that put the food on the table. Slowly, I quit the only thing I loved as I could not contradict him much as it was true. Financially, David was taking care of everything, putting bread on the table. He managed our accounts, he paid the bills, and controlled the budget. While I didn't mind him handling the financials initially, it soon became crystal clear to me that he was using money as another means of control. He would give me a strict allowance and question every single purchase I made. If I spent more than he deemed necessary, he would get angry and accuse me of being irresponsible. One of the most painful aspects was his emotional manipulation. David had a way of twisting situations to make me feel like I was always in the wrong. If I tried to talk to him about how his behavior was affecting me, he would turn it around and make me feel guilty for even bringing it up. He would often tell me how all he did was for me and how I wasn't repaying his kindness and love in good faith. He even went as far as to call me selfish. It was exhausting and left me doubting myself constantly. Though it's embarrassing to admit it here on the internet, our intimate life also suffered. David's demand and criticism extended even into the bedroom. He would expect me to fulfill his desires without considering my own, and if ever denied, immediately I wasn't a good wife. He made me feel like I wasn't good enough and that I needed to constantly prove my love and loyalty to him. It was demeaning and left me feeling more like an object than a partner. Despite all of this, I stayed. I told myself that marriage was about compromise and working through problems. I know it's wrong of me, but I hope that things would get better and that David and I fell in love was just beneath this new surface, and that we could find happiness once again. But things only got a lot worse. Things have been worse for far too long for me to suddenly come here and complain. You can say that I'm sort of used to it now. I mean, I've been used to it, haven't I? It's not like I have anyone. My family is all dead. My friends all cut me off, and I don't have a college degree to go out and find a job. David is really all that I have, if I'm being honest, so I was okay accepting him whatever the way he was, as long as I had him. However, here's where the problem starts to arise. In the past few months, David's behavior has taken a disturbing turn. He's become obsessed with the idea of an open marriage. He started bringing it up casually, at first suggesting that it might be spicing things up and strengthening our bond. I was shocked and hurt by the suggestion. The thought of him being with other women while expecting me to stay faithful was unimaginable. I tried to communicate my feelings, but he dismissed them, saying I was being too narrow-minded and old-fashioned. Well, guys, despite all my efforts, David's obsession with the open marriage, it grew. He began researching it obsessively, reading articles and watching videos about it. He would constantly bring it up, trying to convince me that it's the modern way to have a healthy relationship these days. I felt sick to my stomach, actually repulsed, every single time he mentioned it. It was clear that his interest wasn't about strengthening our bond, but about giving himself the freedom to explore other options while keeping me tethered to him. When I continued to resist, David became more persistent and aggressive. He would start using threats, saying that if I did not agree to an open marriage, he would simply divorce me. He told me that I was being selfish and that I was the one ruining our marriage by not being open-minded. The man who once made me feel like I was his everything now made me feel like I was nothing. He knows there's no other place for me to go, so he's manipulating my weakness. I feel trapped, like I have no choice but to comply with his demands or lose everything I'd built with him over the years. I don't want to agree to this disgusting desire of his, but what if he really does divorce me on the grounds of it? What would I do then? Well, I don't know what to do anymore. I could take him in the worst behavior any day, but how do I accept him being with other women when he is all I have? Do you guys have any suggestions on how I should handle it? If yes, please help me. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So it looks like, well, the comment section was really alive with this one. We're going to check out a few comments and let me know which one you're rocking with. And if you are new to the channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, baby. Comment number 1 from Marjorie Roy 11 says, "Hey, OP, I just read your story and my heart goes out to you. It's incredibly brave of you to share your experience. It sounds like you're in a very difficult situation. But remember that you deserve to be treated with respect and love. Nobody should have to live in a controlling, emotionally manipulative relationship. It's crucial to reach out for support, whether it's through friends, local support groups, or even online communities. There are a few organizations that can help you get back on your feet and regain your independence. You have so much strength to endure all this, and I believe you can find a way out of it. Maybe show a little courage for your happiness and know that you deserve a life full of love and respect." Comment number 2 from Lemon Fisher 442 says, "Hey, OP, I'm sorry, but I can't feel much sympathy for you. I mean, you've stayed in a toxic relationship for years, and now you're surprised it's gotten worse, huh? You saw the red flags early on with David's controlling behavior and still chose to stay and give up your passion for art. You let him control your finances and your life, and it's hard to believe that in 7 years you didn't see a way or think of making yourself more independent, and now you're expecting advice on what to do? It seems like you're just looking for pity rather than actually trying to solve your problems. I don't know. If you're truly unhappy, you need to take action and stop making excuses. Complaining on the internet won't change a darn thing. It's just as much as the next person." Updates number 1. It's been weeks since I last updated. Weeks of me fighting against my husband and his whimsical, disgusting wish. For those of you who are new here, my husband of 7 years has started pressuring me into opening my marriage so he could sleep around. I can't divorce my husband because there's no place for me, and knowing this well enough, my husband has been threatening with divorce. So, About a few weeks ago, I first came here looking for help and received tremendous help here. People have been so kind to me all my life, never. And maybe that's why I feel more of a failure, despite all your support and amazing advice. I could not save my marriage. No, I've not divorced him. As I mentioned, I really don't have that luxury. Instead, I did it. I agreed to open our marriage, and honestly, that feels just as bad as ending our marriage, if not worse. Well, it was the day before yesterday's morning. The day felt as usual as it possibly could. However, little did I know my husband had planned a little surprise for me. Just as I went to serve him his morning coffee, he served me divorce papers. I remember how many of you mentioned in your comments that David won't divorce me, or he'll have to pay me alimony, and as much as that made sense, I could not control how my body shook as I read through the papers. With a wicked smile, he told me that since our interests no longer matched, maybe it would be better if we just went our separate ways. I remember the way I begged and pleaded with him not to do it, but that jerk had the audacity to tell me that he was doing this all for both of our benefits. After enough grueling and begging, when it was clear that he had no mind listening to my pleas, I was left with no choice but to agree to an open marriage. This man, ladies and gentlemen, had the audacity to hug me. Yes, he hugged me and told me that he knew I was smart enough to see the benefits and left the house for God knows where. It's been 3 days since, and he has not returned yet. Was he cheating out there? I can't even label it cheating, can I? I mean, is this why he forced me to open the marriage so he can do what he desires, and I can't even name it cheating? Nobody can blame him, malign his name, or I can have no upper hand on him even if I chose to divorce him now, right? I don't know what to do. I seem to be stuck in the cruelest joke of the gods and see no way out. I hate him and want him to suffer the way I'm suffering and have suffered over the years. I just don't know how to make him pay. Please help me out. Tell me how I can make this life a living hell of his. Please. Update number 2. Hey everyone, it's been over a month since I last wrote you guys, and it was not easy at all. David had broken my heart in such a manner that nothing I feel can ever fix it back the way that it was. If any of you are interested in knowing how the new life has been suiting David, well, he's been happier than I'd ever seen him. He rarely comes home, spends his night God knows where, and remains in an awfully good mood. Anyways, don't worry, this won't be just another post about me whining about my pathetic life. I may have done something, and I want you guys to be the judge. So let me start from the beginning, yeah? After David left me for, wherever the hell he went, I was devastated. I spent days crying trying to understand why he would want this. I felt betrayed and hurt, but most of all I felt an emotion in me that I didn't know I was capable of. Anger. I'd given so much to our marriage, and this was how he repaid me. And with that came an insatiable hunger for revenge. I spent my days pondering about, I thought of ways that I could make, him suffer the way that I suffered. Honestly, David gave the idea himself. One of the very few nights that he was here, he joked if I had found other partners yet. I know that he's one sick jerk, but that's not the point. It sort of reminded me that the freedom I had offered him applies to me too. Now, I know if I just slept with someone else despite him, it would hardly work. I don't think he cares about it, or maybe he just thinks that I can hardly find someone. I wouldn't say that he's entirely wrong, as it's been years since I had talked to someone of the opposite gender. So how the hell was I supposed to just find a date out of thin air? More importantly, I didn't want just any date. I wanted one that could help me make him suffer. Someone he looked up to or was jealous of. I understand male ego enough, or maybe David's ego enough, that he would never want someone he was jealous of to have anything that belongs to him. Even if it was something worthless in his eyes as me. So, one night, as I laid in an empty bed, staring at the ceiling, it hit me out of nowhere. Alex. I remember David often bragging about his boss, Alex. He was always saying how successful, charismatic Alex was. It was sick to hear how David talked about this man so much. I knew he hated him, and hated him for all the right reasons. Well, for starters, Alex was far younger than David, yet he was his boss, meaning far ahead in his life than David would ever be. I'd seen the man before, and he was a fine sight to see. And those of you who thought only women care and hate because of someone's looks, wait till you witness a man's jealousy. So anyways, that night I decided I would get close to Alex. Not just for revenge, but to see if there was any way that he would help me destroy David. If David wanted an open marriage, I'll give him one. But on my terms. I wanted to see if Alex was as great as David made him out to be, or if he was just another man who seemed something on the surface and was entirely something else behind closed doors. The next day, I started my plan. I went through David's calendar and found the perfect opportunity. There was this little office party. It's coming up, and I knew David would want me to be there to show off his perfect wife. I dressed to impress that night. As we entered the party, I put on my best smile, determined to make a good impression. I spotted Alex almost immediately. He was tall, dark hair, a confident air about him. He was surrounded by colleagues laughing and chatting effortlessly. I could see why David was jealous of him. He had an undeniable presence. I waited for the exact right moment, and then approached him with a warm smile. I introduced myself, and he acknowledged me almost instantly. We chatted for a while, and I found myself genuinely enjoying the conversation. Alex was charming, and he seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. I played my part perfectly, laughing at his jokes and complimenting his work. By the end of the night, I could tell I've made an impression. So, over the next few weeks, I found ways to run into Alex more often. I would visit David at work, bring him lunch, and pretend to be the supportive wife. Each time I made sure to bump into Alex, and each time our conversations grew longer and much more personal. I could see the curiosity in those eyes, the way that he looked at me when he thought that I wasn't watching. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I called Alex and asked if he wanted to grab a little drink. I told him I needed some advice about David's career, and I was worried about him. Alex agreed without a hesitation, and we met at a quiet bar downtown. So, as we sipped on our drinks, Long Island for me, I poured out my concerns about David. I carefully presented my words, painting a picture of a loving wife, worried about her husband's career. Alex listened intently, nodding and offering his advice. I could see the sympathy behind his eyes, but more than that, his interest in me. The way he leaned in close or looked at me, or the way his thoughts were etched right on his face. By the end of the night, I had him hooked. We exchanged numbers, and from then on, we started texting on the reg. Our conversations grew more personal and more intimate, and I could feel him falling for it, thinking that the connection between us was growing strong. I knew I was getting closer to my goal. I'm close to the very end of my plan, and from here on, I only have a plan to execute David's downfall. However, in all the time I've known Alex, he seems like a genuine person, and I can't help but feel that I'm taking advantage of him. He is my only hope, though, as I could think of no one else capable enough to help me put David in his place. What do you guys think? Update number 3. Hey there, I have great news. Before that, I know it's almost been 2 months since I last updated, and I'm sorry for the delay, but that's how much time it's taken to finally reach a place where I can divorce my husband. Yep, you read it right, I've divorced him. I divorced David. I mean, I've just sent him the papers, but, that counts, right? Let me tell you what happened. So, as my bond with Alex deepened, I slowly but subtly started mentioning David's unprofessional behavior and all the wrongs that he was doing to the company, without ever letting him doubt my intentions. I mean, of course, I didn't come right out with everything at once. Instead, I just dropped little bits here and little bits there, always making it seem like I was just a cornered wife trying to help her dearest. Well, whenever I would be over at his place, I would mention to Alex how great it must be to get off early while he makes other employees work almost till midnight, hinting that's how late David stays at the office. I was very well aware that Alex neither had asked him to stay the night nor had any knowledge of it. I would hint at David's lax attitude towards his responsibility, saying how he feels overwhelmed at work and always talks about needing to delegate the work to others, making him question his competence. Well, I even went as far as to subtly hint how I'm afraid David must be cheating. Yeah, innocently remarking that what if he was cheating on me with someone from the office, knowing well enough that it was strictly against company policy to date your colleague. I was careful not to overdo it, just small comments here and there, always wrapped in concern and care. Soon enough, Alex began to see David in a new light, but he never suspected my motive. He trusted me, and that trust was key to my plan. As the weeks went by, Alex started acting on the information I'd give him. He called David into his office more often, asking pointed questions about his work hours and relationships within the company. David, of course, denied any wrongdoing, but I could see the doubt inside of his eyes. Finally, it all came to a head. Alex confronted David about his behavior, and when David could not provide satisfactory answers, and well, it didn't help that he was in fact sleeping around with more than one woman from his office, cheating on all of them, including Alex's cousin's sister. Naturally, he was dismissed from his job. It was a huge blow to him. Losing his job was just the start. Alex not only fired him, but used his influence to cut David off from important connections, leaving him isolated and struggling. Suddenly, all of those nights David spent out and about, they weren't so fun anymore. Yeah, which was all I wanted. On the other hand, Alex. He helped me get a job when I told him about my desire to be more than just a wife. Not in his company, but in his friend's. His friend runs a child's book publication, and I'm the new illustrator there. Thanks to him, I'm not only able to earn enough for myself, but I'm also doing something that makes me feel proud. I've been at the job for more than a month, and yeah, the pay's great. Due to which I was able to rent a small apartment near my workplace, and I moved out of David's. Yesterday I mailed divorce papers to his place. I know he would call, obviously, whenever they get there. It won't be pretty, but I no longer need to take whatever he deems worthy of serving me. Anyways, if anything big happens, I'll update you guys. But let me ask you this, do you think I made the right decision?